Hey, if you want to hear us discuss this same topic in a shorter video, click the link in the description below. Now let's get into the podcast. What's up, breathing people? Welcome back to Just Breathing Podcast. Today I am joined by my wife, Brittany, and we are going to be discussing dating for marriage. This is different than dating for sex. This is different than dating for partnership. I hate that word so much. And this is different than dating because you are bored. This is actually purposeful dating. So if you have been following us for any amount of time, you know that we are married. We've been married for 10 years. Yes. So we've been married for 10 years. We have somewhat of a grasp. I would say we're still in the honeymoon stage of marriage because marriage is for life. So we're still in that beginning stage of it. But we have enough experience to say what caused us to date for the purpose of marriage, that caused us to get married, that caused us to stay married. Because honestly, I think if you start with purpose from the very beginning, it actually influences your purpose in the actual thing itself. And that can apply to a lot of areas of life, but I think marriage is no different. So we're going to be getting into some different things that are related. We have a couple points that we will get through as this podcast progresses that we want to just share our own stories and our own experiences that relate to these things. But let's start with the first one. So the first thing to do when you are dating for marriage is to decide. It's very simple, but this is actually the cheat code for anything you want to do in life. Anything you want to do in life, you actually have to make a decision to do it. Everybody wants to be fit. No one wants to decide to be fit.
Deciding changes everything.
Oh, yeah. You can talk about it. You can say, like, I want to be fit. I want to be healthy. I want to be a better Christian. I want to be a better father, a better parent, a better...
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter if you've not actually made the decision to do it, because decision actually influences what steps you'll take to get there.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about 4 main things to just have in mind if you are dating for marriage, right? And so the first one is decide, which we're talking about right now. But as I've been thinking over this, I love it because that first decide lends itself into the other 3.
Yeah.
So like if you, like you're saying, when you decide that you want to get married, now you have to take it seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you actually have to like figure out what you're doing and what you want and what you're looking for and what you have in mind for your life. And it seriously changes everything. And then it helps you not waste time. It helps you, just take purposeful steps forward.
Yeah.
And
So basically, if you want to get married, you need to decide that now that's the purpose of your dating. A lot of times we have these sort of misconceptions of what the purpose of dating is. I think there's like relationships and then there should be dating. I think we should separate those things because I can have a relationship with a lot of different people. But if we haven't defined what the purpose of that relationship is it really dating? Like if we haven't decided like I'm in relationship with you because I want to marry you.
Yeah. It's
what
different.
are we actually doing?
It's different.
It's a relationship.
Yeah.
And you could have a relationship with the grocery store clerk. You know, do people say that anymore?
Well, okay,
is there such thing as a clerk? I don't know.
I mean, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But it's true because I think of before we were even dating, I had relationships with people,
Right.
but we never said that we were dating. And I look back and I chuckle because now that we've talked about this before, and I think they thought we were dating. But I didn't think we were dating.
Yeah.
We never talked about it. But like I look back now and I'm like, oh, that was a date. And I think they thought that we were like in a dating relationship.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, this is a relationship. Like I'm getting to know you. Like I barely know you. So this is great. Like maybe you'll be a great friend, you know?
And some of that was due to your naivete.
That's true. That's true.
But But if you don't establish the ground rules
Yeah.
from the get, you're not really going to be. Maybe you'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Maybe through the long, drawn out relationship that you're bound to have because you didn't set any
Yeah.
ground rules at the beginning.
Yes.
Maybe you'll get there. But man, is it so much easier to get to marriage when you set out from the get-go.
Right.
This is the purpose.
Well-
This is what we're doing. I've made the decision.
Mhm.
And it makes it so much easier to find that person who you'll eventually marry when you communicate to that person, I've made this decision that this is why I date now. And if that person's like, cool,
Right.
let's go.
Like, okay, so that's great because if those people who I think thought they were dating me would have said to me, are we dating? Or I would like to date you.
Right.
I would have been like, no.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know you well. So for me, I had decided that I would only date for marriage.
Mm.
And so that's why I didn't think those were dating relationships. Because if I did, I would have been like, I don't want to mislead you.
Sure.
Like, I don't know you well enough to date you.
right.
Because in my mind, I'm like, I will only date you if I see that you possibly could be somebody I would marry.
Mm.
So I'm not even going to go into that relationship unless I know that you're someone I could possibly marry. But I don't even know enough about you at this point to say yes to that. So yeah, that makes a big difference. Communicating that decision or your intentions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would you say? Like, what did you think about dating?
So I think this is super interesting to inject our own personal stories into it because I think it's there's a lot of people that probably are in these sort of friend zone relationships that maybe the other person is thinking that they're in a different level or a different phase in the relationship than the other person thinks because they're not clear in their communication about where they would like to be at.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's perfectly okay for you to communicate where you want to be in a conversation, in a relationship, in a situation that you're a part of. You are a person with, opinions, you're a person with intellect. You can inject, this is where I think we're at.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not there, at least you've communicated that so you don't have that burden on you anymore. So just remember that. I think that's super helpful because I wish I did that more in relationships I was in the past.
Yeah.
But in terms of where I was at when we met, I was coming off of a relationship where I would say like I was hurt by that previous relationship and we were going through a time where there was a revival taking place where God was just doing amazing things on our college campus. And that was so much more important to me than dating anyone else. So like when you came into my life, I actually wrestled with God a lot on this because, I'm reading about Paul and it's better to not be married. And I'm like,
Yeah.
sweet, I'll do that. I'll just be all gung-ho for Christ. I'll reach people for Christ. I'll be powerful for Christ. I don't need a woman to satisfy me anymore.
Yep.
Not in any way against women, but in a way that like I felt like me and God were going to take over the world.
Yeah.
And so when you came into my life and I had that kind of inclination, like I kind of want to pursue this person, I fought.
Yeah.
I fought with God on it because I was like, I knew that I was also at a point where I'm not going to date like I did in the past for fun, for partnership. I was going to date for marriage. So I knew if I made that decision, marriage is going to come out of it.
Right. You had to take it seriously.
I had to take it seriously. And I was scared of that because I didn't want to lose what was going well in terms of my relationship with God. And so yeah, it was a fight. But once that decision was made, and thankfully I had a group of people around me that I was able to talk to, and then I was able to kind of invest some of these thoughts and some of these feelings that I was having, and they were able to kind of affirm like, hey, I think this is a good thing for your life. Like, I think this is a good thing for you to pursue. And so that set me on course to actually pursue you in the relationship.
That's cool.
So it was a very different path for me,
Yeah.
where I wasn't dating anyone else. I don't think there was anybody that I was in relationship with that thought we were dating. I'm not that type of person.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a personality thing too. Like if I was dating a person, they would know.
Yeah, yeah.
They would know. We're dating now.
Right,
I'm
right.
just how I communicate.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of clarity.
Hmm.
It can be also abrupt.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, making the decision to get married from the jump is the most important thing that you can do if you want to get married.
Yes.
Decide that you want to get married. Watch videos on the importance of marriage. Watch videos on how great marriage is. That's a different topic. That's not what we're talking about today. This is how you get in the right mindset to date for the purpose of marriage.
And to get into that right mindset, I feel like leads into like the next thing, being prepared.
Yeah.
So like in this list of 4, this is my favorite one.
Oh, yeah.
Because being prepared in my mind is like everything. So like deciding is like super easy in my mind. Like that's the easy part. Like you decide, okay, this is what I want to do. But if you actually mean that you decide, now it's time to get prepared. Because now you need to know there's so much that you need to figure out about yourself and about the person that you want to marry. You want to know, like you were saying, watching videos about marriage. First, you need to kind of decide, what do I think about marriage? Like, is marriage like I stay with this person while I'm in love? Or is this like a life decision? Like for you, like you have to decide that. Now, I believe that marriage is forever, and marriage in itself is a decision to love that person, even when you don't feel like it. But so you have to decide, what do you think about marriage? What kind of person do you want to marry? And what do you want for your life? Because all of those things matter when you're looking for somebody to marry. They need to have the same outlook on marriage as you do. They need to be the person you're looking for, and they need to be on the same course as you for your goals and your desires and your dreams. Now, there's always room for you have to leave room for grace and wiggle room, because you're going to get married and you're going to change, and that person's going to change. But you're married now. But having a general direction, right? Like if you want to have 10 kids and the person that you're dating doesn't want to have any kids, I mean, that might be a problem.
That's going to be a problem.
That's going to be a problem. So knowing what you want, knowing what kind of person you want to marry, what kind of life that you've always dreamed of living, and making sure that all of those things align is really, really important.
And that really takes some personal time of getting away with yourself and answering the important questions that you are going to ask the person that you're potentially pursuing in marriage.
Yeah.
So you've already made the decision that you want to get married. You communicate that to the person that you are dating for the purpose of marriage, and you've come prepared with questions that you have personally analyzed and thought about, and you know exactly what you want. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't compromise. That doesn't mean that in a relationship there can't be like, yeah, you wanted that, I wanted this. Okay, can we meet in the middle? Totally fine. But there is going to be, especially if you do take the time to think about the questions that you need answered before you start dating somebody, there's going to be some questions that are deal breakers. Non-negotiables.
Yeah.
There's definitely going to be things where you're like, okay, if this person is not on the same page as me here, and here, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's tough. That's really tough, because there are so many factors in relationships. I'm not even going to say in dating, because dating, remember, that is for the purpose of marriage. So if you're in that process, you're already purposefully dating that person for marriage.
Yeah.
In relationships, there's so many other factors. There's attraction, there's lust, there's, all of these things that will muddle your things that you've already prepared and you've already answered for yourself personally that you need answered by the person that you're pursuing.
Yeah, and I would say that's why prepared is my favorite, because I think me being prepared as a young person, very young, it protected me. Like, it saved me time, it saved me heartbreak. It kept me focused. And I that's the best word I can think of. It really protected me. And just to give an example, so I knew what I thought about marriage. And I knew what I wanted. And I had my negotiables and my non-negotiables, right? So, once you know that, just that in itself, knowing that in itself makes it easier for you to not even start dating somebody, at least for me. Like, for most of my life, I didn't meet anybody that I would date. I had crushes in high school, but I was like, none of these people, even though you don't usually marry someone that you met in high school, but I was like, none of these people I would marry. There's nobody here I would marry.
Right.
I got to college, and the people that I had friendships with that we would hang out, that's what I'm doing. First of all, I would like to make friends.
Right.
Second, could you be somebody that I would date? So far, it doesn't look like it, but we'll see. But it wasn't until I actually met you and I dated you because I saw that you are somebody I might marry.
Yeah.
Like, you had potential. And so I was like, okay, I'll get into a dating relationship with you because you're not like checked off my list yet. And so, and
that's a thing that you actually did before you even got to high school or you got to college, was you actually had a list.
I actually had a list.
Yeah. You had a list. Talk about that.
Okay. So this is really funny and probably geeky, but it worked and it protected me. I think it was in youth group. I had one youth leader. I had a lot of really good youth leaders, but they talked a lot about marriage, and just how to, I guess, prepare yourself for marriage and keep yourself safe. And so one of the suggestions is to make a list of like what you want. And so I had a pretty extensive list. But a lot of the things were like kind of non-negotiable. So I wanted the person that I dated to be following after God, pretty fervently. Like, I wanted them to be like, nothing else matters except for me doing what God wants. And so that was really important to me. And so I had a long list, and some of it was like, it has to be this way. And then others were like, this would be okay if this person doesn't meet this.
Right.
And so
you had your non-negotiables and your negotiables.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
And so, and I don't think at that time, I don't think I knew that, but like, I knew the ones that weren't that as important. Right. And so, but that helped me because that's why I had decided and I was prepared. And that's why I didn't date people. I was just like, you're not pursuing God, or you think sex before marriage is fine, or like all these things, or you don't even follow God. Like, it's just kind of easy. Like, okay, you're a really cool person and I'm attracted to you, but I could never marry you.
Yeah.
So I would never date you. So anyway, so I made that list, and you met everything on the list actually, which is funny, except for one thing. It was like, you didn't like to play games, but that's a really great example of something on the list.
I don't like to play your games.
You don't like to play board games.
I don't like to play Rummy Cube, and I don't like to play a lot of these board games. Pretty much any board game.
Anyway, that would have been cool if you liked that. But that is a.
But do I play them?
You do play them.
But do I play them?
You do.
I do.
So
I do.
Kudos to you.
Thank you.
But that is not
Check.
that's not important, right? Like, in the long run, that is not that important.
No.
And so I was totally okay with you not liking to play board games. But yeah, so that was my list, and being prepared changed everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have been as focused, and I would have wasted time, and I would have been heartbroken, and who knows, I might have been dating somebody and missed the chance to date you.
Right. And I don't think we talk about that enough. Like, God has a plan for your life. God's will be done in this world. But there are definitely situations, people, relationships that can totally be missed because we're not in tune with God,
Yeah.
because we're not in tune with what he would actually desire for our lives. And this could be in any area of our lives. This could be in our relationships. This could be in our dating life. This could be in our health. It could be in our, I don't know, our work.
Mm-hmm.
It could be in so many different areas of our lives that if God is not at the helm leading where we're going in any of those areas of our lives, we can miss opportunities. We can miss people. We can miss relationships.
Yeah.
And we need to not worry about that. I don't think we're not supposed to worry. I don't think it's something that we're supposed to think too hard on.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're just supposed to make sure that God is at the helm. God is at the front. God is leading us in every area of our lives. And how you know that God is leading you in every area of your lives is to be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that really is the big thing about preparation. It's a lot for you, but it's also a lot for you to get aligned
Mm-hmm.
with what God has said. You know, when you take the time to see what God would say about your relationships, or what God would say about, you know, any situation in your life, and then you make a plan for how you're going to live in that area, you're going to be more aligned with God, and that is how he leads you.
Yes.
So you won't be missing those opportunities. You won't be missing those people that he places in your life
Mm-hmm.
if you're prepared.
Yeah.
So it's so cool how God brought such maturity to you in that area for the purpose of you finding someone to marry.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool. I love that. And that, some of what you were talking about in there leads to the third point, and that's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, if we're honest with ourselves, we know if the person sitting across from us on a date is the person that we're going to marry or not.
Yeah.
Like I said, like with all of the other things, attraction, feelings of love get in the way of us being honest. But if we get alone with ourselves and we actually have the hard conversation internally in our minds with God,
Mm-hmm.
is this person someone that I'm actually going to marry? No.
Mm-hmm.
No. And the faster that you're able to exit that relationship or exit the purpose of dating for marriage in that relationship, the easier it is going to be to get out. The easier it's going to be to maybe maintain that friendship
Mm-hmm.
and not have it crumble because you just spent so long pursuing this thing that you knew from the beginning was not going to work.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to that other person. If you know that you're not going to marry that person, it's so unfair, especially like guys. Like if you are in a relationship with somebody and that girl, you know, you're never going to date her, but you're just using her because you want her for her body or you want her for whatever purpose you have.
Mm-hmm.
That's so unfair.
Yeah.
That's mean, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So be honest with yourself and your relationships and say, is this person actually somebody that I'm going to marry?
Yeah.
If you're on that date and that person's chewing that food more loudly than they should, and it bothers you,
Don't go on a second.
don't go on a second date because it's going to bother you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You know, there are certain things that in marriage you're going to have to get used to. You're going to have to get through and learn how to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are some things that you know from the beginning, like, oh my gosh, this person is a leech.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's unhealthy. So that's actually that's a red flag.
Right. That should just be a red
red
flag in the relationship in general.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know that about the person from the beginning, cut that sucker off, man.
Yes.
That sounds super brutal now that I just compared him to a leech.
No, but it's so true. Like, being honest with yourself is going to save you time. It's going to save the other person time. It's the kindest thing you could do for yourself and the other person. You just have to be honest. And I think, from my experience, that you know before you even date the person if there's somebody who has potential for you to marry them.
Yeah.
So don't date them. Don't even date them. And then, like you're saying, if you are dating them and you find something out that's kind of like a big no, or it breaks your non-negotiable, graciously end that relationship.
Yep.
And maybe explain why, so they don't think that, so they understand. But yeah, don't get stuck there, because that's just going to waste your time and waste their time.
Yep. Don't waste time. And there we go. Fourth point, be bold. Be bold. And that's for both people in the relationship, not just for the guy. It's for the woman too.
Yes.
Boldness is such an attractive trait to begin with. If you have already made the decision, you're prepared, you got the questions answered that you needed answered, and you're honest with yourself that this is a person that I could see myself marrying.
Right.
Now it's time to start getting that process rolling to get married.
And I would say, just make sure, like I feel like there is some time in between where you make sure that is the person you want to marry, right?
Right.
Because I mean, I didn't meet anybody like this, but I'm sure I could have met somebody that met all those things, but it's not somebody I might have wanted to marry.
Sure.
If that makes sense. Like maybe I'm not totally attracted to them, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, but once, like you're saying, once you find out that they meet all of your non-negotiables and there's no red flags and there's somebody that you could marry, get to know them and communicate that with them. If hopefully you're both dating for marriage, hopefully that's the goal. Make sure you really enjoy that person, that is somebody you do want to marry, and then be bold and move quickly. Take steps forward to get married.
Yeah, I think you need to state your intentions early, and you need to start taking steps to get married. There's really no reason other than fear,
cultural norms.
Yeah, what other things would prevent somebody from actually, when they made the decision to get married, from pursuing it?
Fear,
yeah,
doubt, cultural pressures, especially family pressures if you're getting married young or your family is unsure of that person. Now, with everything said, you do want to make sure if your family's pointing out red flags, you need to make sure you're being honest with yourself.
Right.
Because there is wisdom in that with people who know you well. But yeah, those things will hold you back. And I mean, this is a whole nother podcast in itself, but not letting those doubts and those fears hold you back, because doubt will always hold you back.
Yeah.
So knowing where you stand on marriage, for me, we got married young.
Yeah.
And so I will say, I wouldn't say I had doubts about marrying you, but I had fears this is the rest of my life. Am I making the right decision? I'm so young. I was 21.
21. I was 22.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's pretty young.
It's pretty young.
And so, but I knew I knew you, and I knew that I wanted to marry you. And I also knew that marriage is a decision to love that person. And I knew that you also believed that. So I was like, there's nothing holding me back except for that little bit of fear. Am I too young? And is this the right decision? But, that will always hold you back if you let it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think those family pressures and cultural norms, I definitely probably felt the hardest out of anything else. There's always questions that you have, maybe it's sitting in the back of your mind that maybe you just didn't express to your future partner, your future spouse. But yeah, I think it's those norms wow, you guys are kind of young, aren't you? Wow. And that comes from culture and family. Both of those things were definitely a factor when we got married young.
Yeah.
But why not? Actually give me reasons. Actually give me logical reasons why I shouldn't marry this person at this age. And that's something
and they won't be able to give you good ones.
Right. There's not good reasons. There's not good reason. What about your career? we can't pursue a career together and
Yeah.
be stronger as a team and actually
Mhm.
have a permanent support person for whatever pursuit we have in our careers.
Yeah.
Like, do we want to have kids? Yeah. And I also want to be like agile and able to see them through the rest of their life.
Right.
And I will,
Mhm.
because I had kids at an early age instead of when I'm 35.
Mm-hmm.
No shame on people that are 35 having kids.
Yeah.
Also, I'm sure those people would say now, I wish I had kids younger,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's tiring.
It's very tiring. And I
Yeah.
can't even imagine doing this, even if we started now.
Yeah.
Like at the age I am now, I'm still young, but like, I can imagine having kids now. I would be dead.
Yes.
I would be so exhausted. But we were able to make it through because we had that youth. We had
Mhm.
that vigor that was able to stay up later and get up early. And, we were able to make it through, I think, more successfully than if we were to wait till now.
Oh yeah. And there's like, we won't go off on this tangent because it could be long, but having kids early and getting married young has a lot of positives, not
Yeah.
just for energy reasons. Like getting married and having kids is such a humbling and maturing process.
Yeah.
Like I'm still amazed by that. Like being married for 10 years and having kids the ages that they are, I'm just like, wow, this is the perfect formula for humility and for like maturing. Like there's never a day where I'm like, I've got this. I'm always like, wow, I've got a lot to learn. Like I've got a lot of areas to grow. So think about waiting till I'm like a lot older to get married and then have kids. I just missed out on that. I just probably got more selfish in the process. Like, I mean, that's just my view on that. But yeah, being bold and making those steps forward to get married is really important. And having the premarital counseling, like I'm all about that. We did that, but I feel like we could have even done more. Like there's so much that you can just talk about, and just the better that you can get at communication before you get married is great, because you're going to have to get better and better at communication while you're married. So just getting better at communication before that will be great and really help you afterwards. And don't be afraid to continue that counseling once you get married, and just learn how to work through stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Communication is the key. Everybody says it, but it's so true. I honestly, and I'm just thinking about this now, and tell me what you think of this. I honestly think that communication is the key to whether you will stay in love or fall out of love with your partner. I keep saying partner. I hate that word. With your spouse.
I think that's actually, I think there's more to it than just that. But yeah, if your communication is poor, you're in for a very hard life or a divorce.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think there's nothing that instills in me the love and respect that I need to be the best version of myself and to feel loved than being able to communicate openly with you.
Yeah.
And you also being able and feeling safe enough to communicate with me
Yes.
also makes me feel like a man. Like I feel like you're protected
Yeah.
when you're able to communicate with me well.
Right. Because
And
I will feel that way because
Yeah.
I'll feel safe enough to communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really think communication in a healthy way, like done in a healthy way, you can yell at each other.
Yeah.
You can talk to each other in very sarcastic and disrespectful and just ways that are not healthy. But if you're able to talk healthily to each other, I think that's really the difference maker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a point to add, but I can't think of it now. I'm thinking on what you said. So
No, that's good. Let's wrap it up here. Thanks everybody for watching. We're going to be back with another podcast real soon. We love you all. Goodbye.